What's up, guys? 4K Cinema HD here with a Blu-ray movie review of the 1980s New York City classic directed by James Glickenhaus, the Exterminator. I'm going to start a segment where I'm going to start reviewing cult classic films, particularly a lot of New York exploitation films that were shot and made here in New York City. So this is a new segment that I want to call Welcome to the Grind. That's going to be the name of the segment, and it's basically going to be focusing on films that were made popular here in New York City, particularly 42nd Street in Midtown Manhattan, Times Square area, where they used to always showcase exploitation films, from black exploitation to sexploitation to pornography, into martial art films, etc., etc. And Times Square was the #1 place to check out all types of exploitation films. So I want to start a segment, being that I'm from New York, and share with you my love for these great cult films. So the first movie, like I said, is James Glickenhaus' 1980s New York City classic, The Exterminator. Now, The Exterminator stars Robert Ginty, and it also stars Steve James. Ginty's character is in the movie called John Eastland, and Steve James' character is Michael Jefferson. So they are two friends who end up fighting in the Vietnam War, and they end up becoming captives by the Viet Cong. And basically, what ends up happening in the beginning of the film, they are Ginty's character in particular is being interrogated in regards to an airstrike that's about to happen in the village. So the Viet Cong soldier wants to know when the airstrike's going to take place and when it's going to happen. So Ginty's character is playing kind of like hard to get, doesn't want to answer the question. So the Viet Cong soldier has a machete basically to the neck of one of his fellow soldiers, other soldiers, other than Steve James, and he's about to behead him if he doesn't get his answers. So that's how the movie starts off, and then after being held captive, I don't really want to give too much away about the movie, I just want to give you my review and take on it. They break free, and then they end up escaping in the military helicopter, and as the chopper is lifting up and whisking away from the village, you see a shot of New York City from the present day, which when they end up coming home, New York City is run down, it's crime infested, there's drugs, prostitution, scum, the worst scum of the earth roaming the streets of New York City. So they both come home, and those are the events that are taking place when they come back from the Vietnam War. So what ends up happening is Steve James' character he lives in the Bronx with his family. He ends up getting a job, both of them end up getting a job at a food market down by the South Street Seaport. And they have an encounter with a group of thugs that belong to a gang called the Ghetto Ghouls. And they catch one of the thugs trying to take beer out of the warehouse and steal some beer, basically, rob the place. And Ginty's character ends up encountering these thugs. As he's battling these thugs, Steve James' character is coming back from, I guess, a lunch break. He sees that his friend is being attacked by these thugs. His character interferes with the assault that's going on in Eastland. And what ends up happening is they end up beating up these thugs. And the thugs basically end up running away after getting beat up by the two actors in the film. And they don't forget what happened to them, so they end up actually tracking down Steve James' character, Michael Jefferson, in the film. They follow him to where he lives up in the Bronx. He ends up seeing his family. The next day, he ends up goes out to run some errands, and as he runs out for errands, the gang members of the Ghetto Ghouls end up beating him up, basically putting him into paralysis, severely beating him up, very, very savagely. And what ends up happening is Robert Ginty's character, John Eastland, finds out about this beating, and he ends up acting out revenge for the sake of his friend getting beat up by these ghetto ghoul gang members. So he sets out on a vigilante spree. He's fed up with society. He's fed up with everything that's going on in New York City at the time. So he takes it upon himself to wipe the streets clean of the scum of the earth. So the movie then progresses on, and it's just basically him just taking out the bad guys in a very graphic way. He ends up torturing people. He ends up he just ends up losing his mind. He's just a character that's just fed up with what's going on with society, and he's just basically doing it for his best friend. So, that's the basic plot of the movie. And then what ends up happening is there's also a cop in the movie who's played by Christopher George, who's hearing about these events as far as the vigilante goes, and about him wiping out these gang members, and he wants to investigate why he's doing it. So it also has another kind of like another storyline as the cop who's trying to figure out who's the exterminator and why is he committing these crimes against these scumbags. But there's also a very disturbing part in the film involving a male brothel that it's quite disturbing because of the subject matter. It's a male prostitution house where young boys are being sold to these perverted men so they could commit these heinous sexual acts on these boys and basically torture them. So what ends up happening is Robert Ginty's character is walking along 42nd Street one day, and he encounters a prostitute, and they end up just walking around the city. They end up getting a room, and as she's disrobing, he sees all these welding marks all over her body. Basically, she was burned, and she kind of explains to Ginty's character what happened to her, and it took place at this male prostitution house. And then he goes back to the place, and he leashes out this vengeance, and he ends up basically killing these people in a very graphic manner. But yeah, so that's the only disturbing part of that film, was that male brothel prostitution house. But other than that, it's a terrific film. It's a fantastic revenge, in your face grindhouse flick. So I highly recommend it. This is my edition from Arrow. It's directed by James Glickenhaus, and also it's produced by Mark Buntsman. Mark Buntsman went ahead and directed the sequel, The Exterminator 2, which I have here, which I'm going to do a review on it in the next video. He produced this film and went on and directed the sequel. Glickenhaus really doesn't acknowledge The Exterminator 2 as a sequel to the film. He basically, in an interview here that was conducted exclusively for Arrow Video, he talks about how if there was a sequel that he would recommend for this film, it would be the First Blood Sylvester Stallone movie. So he would consider that as a sequel to The Exterminator, which kind of, has the same elements about a man who's pushed too far. And also this movie gained a lot of inspiration from the 1974 vigilante classic film Death Wish, starring Charles Bronson. So that's where this film gained its inspiration from. But definitely, guys, check out this film. It's a very graphic movie, very over-the-top violence. So if you enjoy seeing scumbags being tortured and killed for the sake of humanity and the people that live who live on this earth, definitely check out The Exterminator. Highest recommendation. I'm pretty sure if you guys never seen this movie, you definitely will enjoy it. So I'll give you guys this my highest recommendation, and particularly if you could grab yourself the Arrow edition, go right ahead. I think it's pretty cheap right now on Amazon UK. I think it's £7. It's going for £7. But anyway, that's my take on The Exterminator, directed by James Glickenhaus. starring Robert Ginty and Steve James, and a terrific New York City vigilante revenge film. So that's my review on The Exterminator, guys. I hope you enjoy it. Please tell me in the comment section below what are your favorite revenge films, and what type of New York City cult classic films you enjoy that you watched. So I would like to know what you guys like. So anyway, guys, I'm about to go ahead and review The Exterminator 2 for you guys in the next video. So I hope you enjoy this segment, and let me know what you think. This is 4K Cinema HD signing out. Peace, and I'll see you guys soon.